Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in films. I'm Dan, aka The Nolan Connoisseur, joined by the Lynch lover, Jackson Marshall. And apparently he's got a few films on his watch list. How you doing, mate?
Fantastic, Dan. Never been better. Although I would have appreciated it if you'd used the correct terminology, lover of all things Lynch, but we can't always get what we want.
Yeah, so today, Jackson, look, we're going to be covering Bad Education, starring Hugh Jackman, Allison Janney, two elites in Hollywood in terms of acting. Let's see how they do. But before we get into that review, I've got a bone to pick with you a little bit, I guess. Earlier this week, you and me had a little discussion off air on Facebook, of all things, over voice message. Now, there was three main topics that came up in this confrontation.
This is a big peek behind the curtain here, listeners.
We don't usually talk about movies, guys, unless we're on this podcast.
We never talk about movies, even on this podcast.
We try to keep it all here, don't we, Jackson? But sometimes we get a bit carried away, and it was a bit like that this week, where three subjects came up. Now, the first one was whether Matthew McConaughey was a A-lister, or what was he a box office draw? That was the first sort of argument. We call them an argument, but it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, isn't it? The second one...
It was getting pretty fiery when you were starting to pull a knife and I pulled a gun, but...
Yeah, we don't talk
about
that.
Maybe that can be recorded someday.
Yeah. Look, the second one was, when do we think cinemas are going to be coming back? And the third one, which tied into that, was Tenet. I had a bold claim.
What's that?
I had a bold claim that Christopher Nolan's new film Tenet would hit. I think it's going to get over $700 million in the box office. Jackson was having none of it. So before we get into this Bad Education review today, Jackson, Matthew McConaughey, is he an A-grade A-lister, and is he a box office draw?
He is a box office draw. We want to put this out to the listeners. We want to hear your opinions on this. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Even throw us an email. WeWatchThis@gmail.com and @WeWatchThisPodcast across all social media channels. We want to hear what you have to think. I believe he's a box office draw. Matthew McConaughey is a household name. Not that winning an Oscar means anything, but that certainly does add to his clout, to his reputation. This guy's name on a poster at the cinemas with a decent marketing campaign will bring in a crowd, and a popular, easy movie-going crowd. Dan, on the other hand, wants to say otherwise. I've made some quick, brief points. Please, the floor is all yours.
This came from Nolan's film Interstellar.
You've probably never heard of it.
We were talking about Interstellar, and I did some digging and found that Interstellar, Christopher Nolan's 2014 stellar film, was Matthew McConaughey's biggest draw. Don't shake your head. Don't you dare shake your head.
That was so bad it wasn't even punny.
It was his best box office film ever. Just under 700 million. Now, let's take a look at some of his recent films, Jackson. We've got Between Two Ferns, little cameo there. The Beach Bum.
Was that the Harmony Korine picture?
The Beach Bum?
Yeah.
It certainly was.
Okay, so if you've got Harmony Korine's name on the poster, it's probably going to be box office poison.
Okay.
Shout out, though, Spring Breakers will be covered sometime on this podcast.
Oh, Jesus. Serenity. White Boy Rick. The Dark
Serenity,
Tower.
you love that one, didn't you?
Oh, Jesus. White Boy Rick. The Dark Tower. Gold. 5 of his last films, all box office bombs, mate. He was the star in all of them. So tell me how this guy... Well, what's he doing wrong? Because as soon as he was in a Nolan film, 700 million, just like that. It's his best film ever. As soon as he's in anything else, it seems he can't hold a crowd, and he hasn't since Interstellar, it seems. He hasn't done anything. So,
okay, Dan. In classic We Watch This fashion, and particularly of myself, at Marshall and Film followed by an underscore, I'm going to answer your question with a question of my own. I want you to name a couple actors who, regardless of the director, regardless of the picture they're in, it's guaranteed gold. Please name me a couple.
Thank
You're on the
you.
spot here.
Yep. Tom Cruise, number one.
The Mummy.
It did well. It did well in the box office.
Where's your numbers? I'm glad Dan has come prepared.
410 million USD on a budget of 125. For me, that's just over six. Not bad, not great either, but definitely not a bomb. That's for sure.
Tom Cruise, once in a lifetime.
Okay, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson. He's had one bad hit in about 10 years, and that was Baywatch. Don't know what he was thinking. And even
Southland Tales. That
was about 14 years ago, mate. That was 14 years ago.
Please check it out. Richard Kelly at his absolute worst. If you liked Donnie Darko back in the day, you will despise this movie as much as I did.
Years ago. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Never heard of the guy.
He's always bringing in them numbers. So there's 3 already. Okay. Now, I've got nothing against Matthew. Great actor. I just wanted to win that one. So that's 1 point to Dan here. Let's go on to the second one.
So we are really playing for sheep stations then.
The second point. Will cinemas be back? I guess this is a weird one because it's tough. It depends on what country you're in. In Australia, they're talking about lifting restrictions, and tonight they've just said that they're going to lift.
Breaking news. We need a nice little news alert alarm here. Dan, what's the news?
Well, apparently we'll be heading back into the theaters, Jackson, in a month's time.
Oh my god!
That's exciting to me. I'm so keen to have that popcorn and choc top.
You've been missing it, haven't you? I can't wait to sit in those stinky, smelly, sweaty seats. But in all honesty, I really have missed the theater, the movie-going experience on the big screen, booming sound. I cannot wait.
Who hasn't?
What are the restrictions here in Melbourne, Victoria that are being lifted? Well, Dan, I'm glad you asked. So from 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 21st of June, and you best believe we're seeing a movie at 12 a.m. Monday the 22nd, indoor cinemas and movie theaters will be allowed to have up to 50 patrons per theater. We cannot wait to get stuck back into them, but who knows what we're going to see.
We don't know, do we? We don't know whether...
If major releases aren't coming out in the US, and we don't know what's happening in the United States at this point, it sounds like much of the film industry in the United States here at the time of recording don't know what's going on either. We're not sure what kind of movies we're going to get. And that bleeds into our third point. Before we get there, though, I was of the opinion, leading up to this news, that movie theaters and movie releases were looking very unlikely, at least for the next few months. Even with cinemas opening here in Australia, in Victoria in particular, where we live, from next month in about 30 days' time from recording, I'm still very much on the fence. I'm a little more sold, but I believe they're not going to be opening. Dan, what's your take? Earn yourself another point here, mate.
So you still think, even after they've just admitted that they're coming back, you still think there's a chance that's going to be reverted back, is what you're saying?
What are we going to watch? Are we going to go back and watch classic films?
Look,
that honestly could be the case.
That could be the case. I think you'll see films like Parasite, 1917, maybe even some classics from Nolan to build that hype up for Tenet. I know that Village Cinema here, the main theatre, one of the main theatres here in Australia, sent out a survey asking people, what do you want to see? So maybe they'll get some results there and fiddle around, but yeah,
I had that survey as well. I believe I had about 10 minutes into it before I called it a day. How far did you get into that, Dan?
you know damn well I got 1 minute in and gave up. It said the first question was, what film are you excited to see? I clicked Tenet and then I exited the survey. So
you're really doing some good work there for the data collection.
But yeah, so I'll give myself that point anyway, Jackson. Theaters will be coming back by July.
Oh, you're giving yourself the point. No worries.
So I've already won 2 out of 3, but we'll make it a clean sweep here. 3 out of 3. The last point was Tenet, July 17th. A new trailer came out. Jeez, how good that trailer was. You've seen it, haven't you? Several times, like me. 10 times. Anyway,
you might say Tenet times.
The last point was, I thought 700 million. Now, you were not having a bar of this, Jackson, were
700
you?
million what? 700 million people sitting at home not going to the movie theaters.
USD, baby. It's happening. Tenet by the end will get 700 million plus. If I'm wrong, I don't know. What do you want me to do?
I'm glad you had a joke there.
Anything.
If you're wrong, you're sitting down and watching Bloodshot 3 times over, back to back to back.
That could be on the cards. What are you going to put up?
It'll be a live stream, especially for our fans out there. I know you really love that review based on the listening numbers. So I'm sure Dan can't wait to revisit it.
Imagine that, 6 hours of Bloodshot. Would you join me,
6
or would you just be
of
watching?
Vin Diesel mugging at the screen, looking very confused as Neil. I can't remember our producer Neil's surname, but he was Neil Moritz. 6 hours of Vin Diesel looking at the screen, looking at. 6 hours of Vin Diesel mugging at the screen, looking very confused, while producer Neil H. Moritz holds a gun to his head. And Dan will have his own gun held to his.
What are you going to do if I'm right? Well, sorry, when I'm right.
When you're right about Tenet making 700 million at the box office, if it even releases this year, well, Dan, I've just set a challenge to you. I believe you can set the challenge to me. What would you like me to endure and experience when Tenet pulls in 700 million, as you claim? You've given yourself 3 for 3. Come on, lay it on me.
I want you to watch every Nolan film in reverse.
Well, listeners, thanks so much to another exciting episode of the We Watch This Movie podcast. We just want to thank our sponsors, Display and ExpressVPN, because there's no way in hell that will be happening. With the exception of Memento, I'll have to watch that in reverse.
Let us know. Yeah, good one. Let us know what you think. Will Tenet get over 700 million? I tell you what, I'd be.
Is Matthew McConaughey a box office draw? Yes.
Anyway.
And, of course, will cinemas be opening come June/July? We want to hear your thoughts.
All right. So that was a bit of fun anyway. We might release those voice logs one day down the line, maybe for our 50th episode special or 100th episode special.
Maybe behind an explicit rating paywall based on some of the colourful language we were each sharing. Things were very heated.
And yeah, it didn't get too kind near the end. But anyway, Jackson, we've beat around the bush again. Why don't we get into our review for...
What were we watching?
Bad Education.
I wanted to make a difference. I got us all the way to number 4, and I will get us to number 1.
Get us to first. That's all that matters.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
I've been doing some digging. I'm concerned with what I found.
Long Island School Superintendent Frank Toussaint and his Assistant Superintendent for Business, Pam Gluckin, are credited with bringing Roslyn School District unprecedented prestige. There's that word. Frank, always immaculately groomed and tailored, is a master of positive messaging, whether before an audience of community leaders or in an office with a concerned student or parent. In short, Frank can do no wrong. That is, until a plucky student reporter decides to dig deep into some expense reports and begins to uncover an embezzlement scheme of epic proportions, prompting Frank to devise an elaborate cover-up by any means necessary. Dan, we've just wrapped up watching Bad Education. What are your thoughts?
Very good synopsis again, Jackson. You're on fire lately.
Well, at least I got the right movie this time. There was a 2015 release here of Bad Education. In fact, there was a TV series and a TV movie, very community of them. And I almost stumbled into that trap, but luckily I had you here by my side. And the beacon of shining light in Hollywood, the kindest working man in the industry, Mr. Hugh Jackman.
Oh, my heart. Stop. Oh, stop.
You said he wasn't one of your favorites, but let's be honest, you were lying straight through your teeth.
Yeah, it was. If there was top 3 actors, he's number 0. Anyway, Bad Education, Jackson. I was pretty surprised by this film. Not much hype from my side. Didn't know much about it. Looked at the trailer. Didn't light the house on fire. Wasn't really an exciting trailer. It was just this real life story. But once I sat down, watched this on HBO, I was pleasantly surprised. A really, really good film, in my opinion. Hugh Jackman put on a phenomenal performance, and I'm not just saying that. This is one of his career best, I believe. Janney as well puts on another great performance. She's a stellar actor as well. And the whole thing comes together, editing, cinematography, the story. It's this real life story that we haven't really seen explored before. There's sort of a school scandal that I haven't seen many stories sort of go down that path. And it was an angle I wasn't expecting as well. It's not without its flaws, this film. Don't get me wrong. We can go into that in spoilers and a little bit later. But overall, I enjoyed myself, and I'd recommend it to most people out there. If it's a slow burn. I would say it is a slow burn. I like to always touch on the pacing because I know a lot of our listeners don't have an attention span like us. They want.
Were we saying something? I wasn't paying any attention.
Yeah, you're not one of them. Don't lie. You'll watch a 3-hour slog any day. But yeah, this isn't a 3-hour slog or anything like that. But it isn't an action-based film, is it? So just go into it with that in mind. But I would definitely recommend this. I don't know about you, Jackson. Let me know. What are your thoughts?
Dan, it's interesting you mentioned you watch this on HBO. HBO isn't available here in Australia. So how did you get on that?
Thanks to our good friends at VPN Express, our beautiful sponsors that we'll touch on a little bit later. We watched this for 20%
ExpressVPN.
off.
Right.
What about you? How did you watch it, Jackson?
Of all things, I watched this on Foxtel Now.
Really?
Really? So Foxtel Now have a
okay.
streaming deal with many of the HBO series. I can think back to having seen the latest released episodes of Game of Thrones on there, for example, on their Fox Showcase channel. So I signed up for Foxtel Now, watched Bad Education, and subsequently cancelled my trial of Foxtel Now. As everyone should. No need to put more money in Rupert Murdoch's pockets.
Can you explain what Foxtel is quickly to the international listeners, not from Australia?
No, because they're not sponsoring us, nor do we want Rupert Murdoch's money. So we're going to move on from that point. That's definitely staying in, by the way. Bad Education. If the premise of Spotlight meets Election sounds appealing to you, you will enjoy this movie. And I sure did. Well, Spotlight minus the Catholic Church and pedophilia, and Election minus the Reese Witherspoon character. But look, this really was a fun watch. I certainly enjoyed myself throughout the film. Hugh Jackman, great. Was it a career best? Ooh, I don't know about that. This is certainly a different performance, not what we'd expect from him, but it very was an enjoyable turn. And Janney, I couldn't place her. I saw her a few years ago in I, Tonya. Did you see that, Dan?
Yeah, she's mostly well known from Futurama. She plays Layla.
No, it's not. You've actually got the wrong actress.
Really?
Dude, you have the wrong actress.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Oh, I do too. Katie Sagal.
Yes.
Sorry, they look so similar. I have seen I, Tonya. She was also in a very popular TV series, Sons of Anarchy.
No, she wasn't.
Oh, fuck. This is staying in now. At this point, this is staying in.
This happened twice.
I can't leave that in.
No, you have to. You've got it.
Who's in Sons of Anarchy now? Oh my
Katie
God.
Sagal. You just said it. Very prolific actress, and I loved her in this picture. In fact, for the first half of the movie, she really ran away and stole it. I was a bit concerned there for Hugh, thinking that this guy wasn't going to have the chance to get into it. And we're going to discuss this throughout the spoilers section of the podcast, but the second half really comes together. The script for me was a little simple. It was just kind of feeling like a lot of things were falling into place. And I was a bit concerned early on, like, this seems to be quite complex, but yeah, I enjoyed it. This is a really good watch, and I'm very enthusiastic to visit it in the years to come. Top to bottom, great cast for a second feature, solid stuff, and a really intriguing premise. In fact, I'd love to be covering some more scandal movies in episodes to come.
Yeah, with the script, I think what comes to play there is the screenwriter. He hadn't done a lot of screenwriting, to my knowledge. This is one of his first features, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Mike Wachowski.
Yeah, so that he may have it was a decent script, but I think it's one of those films where without the actors, the script would really shine through as something that needed to be worked on. And one thing that I would say is that the plot elements weren't explored. Some of the characters weren't explored, like Rachel's dad and the backstory there. Would have liked to seen a little bit more there. Rachel herself, her character, look, I didn't find her that likable. Essentially, her character, for the people that haven't seen it yet, she's the one diving into the scandal and trying to expose Hugh Jackman and Allison Janney's characters, Frank and Pam. So I wasn't really on her side. I didn't find her that likable. I don't know about you, whether it was the writing or a miscast actress here. I don't know. Is that something you noticed?
I've got to agree with you there, Dan. Geraldine Viswathan's character, and mind you, she had a great turn in Blockers. You saw that, right?
Yeah, she was good in Blockers. Very funny.
It was a little underwritten here. There were some touching moments that she had with the actor who played her father, but that wasn't really the focus of the script. It wasn't the focus of the story.
No.
This larger-than-life man, Frank Toussaint, played here by Hugh Jackman, and it sounds he was very much very similar in real life. I had listened to some interviews and read some stories about him, and they kind of just plucked him out of reality and put him on the page. That's where the filmmakers wanted to go. That's where the juicy stuff was. So if that's where the 108-minute running time went, I'm happy.
I'm going to attempt to say her name now. Here we go. Can I get a drum roll? Geraldine Viswanathan.
Almost there.
She's actually an Australian actress, so we should be a little bit more sympathetic, a little bit less harsh, but
it's good to see two Aussies just smashing it out of the park in this very American movie, especially set in Long Island in New York. They've got to pull off some tough accents.
We're taking over, mate. We're taking over. How did this do in critics' eyes?
So the critics had this one polling at 93% on Rotten Tomatoes from 119 reviews. Many reviews were released online when this dropped at TIFF at the Toronto International Film Festival, and there is where it was picked up by HBO Films for a then record setting for the year of 2019, $17.5 million distribution deal. So it was a big win for Corey Finley and the production crew behind this. We've got some filmmaking companies here like Automatic Sight Unseen and Slater Hall. Of the 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an average rating of 7.63 out of 10, which very much lines up with what the user score is, a 3.83 out of 5, and on IMDb, a 7.1 out of 10 from 15,000 reviews. So audiences and critics alike have quite enjoyed themselves with this film. On Metacritic, a 79 from 29 reviews. And shout outs to Letterboxd. If you're not following us there, please do. We'd love to engage, love for you to check out our content. On Letterboxd, 3.7 out of 5 from the 25,000 users who have logged it and watched it so far. Does that surprise you, Dan, that it has been loved by everyone?
No, it doesn't surprise me because everyone that I've talked to has enjoyed the film, and it's a film for everyone, I feel like. And there's not much out, so this is the perfect film at the moment. Streaming services are getting more and more users, and we're wanting to watch new films, engaging content, and things like The Last Dance on Netflix and Tiger King have been taking over. But when there's a serious, when you want something serious and new, there's not much out there. So this was really hitting in a niche here. But then again, I feel like it's a little bit underrated with only 14,000. It has been out for a little bit now. Maybe that'll pick up, but I feel like when 2020 comes to an end, this will be sort of an underrated gem. For me, this is my favorite film of 2020 so far, and all things considered, we're in a pandemic, so and it's going up against films like Capone and The Hunt, so it's not in strong competition right now. Will
it's
it stay
funny,
there?
Dan, that you say
Probably
it's not in strong competition. because it is a little concerning and even frightening to a point to consider if people aren't watching movies like Bad Education, which is available across several different streaming services, like we mentioned, Foxtel here in Australia and HBO Go or HBO Max in the US. What are people watching while they're stuck and trapped at home? It sounds like everyone's just binging on whatever's new on Netflix, whatever's being pushed on there by Ted Sarandos. If this guy already didn't have such a stranglehold over our viewing and watching habits, imagine what he's got now that people have been confined to their homes and confined to their own four walls. Are they just going to continue to watch this? What was the Netflix reality show? Is it Too Hot to Trot? Too Hot to Handle. That's the one, isn't it?
Too Hot to Handle, yeah.
Too Hot to Handle. Are people really sitting at home and watching that? I think they kind of are.
They
Go
are.
out and seek out more projects like this based on and very much adapted from a true story, the largest public school embezzlement in American history. Go seek this kind of stuff out. Don't give Ted Sarandos more money, please.
The problem is, Jackson, they're not getting exposed to this. They don't even know it's out, the general public. There hasn't been any marketing. Barely any marketing. I mean, Hugh Jackman appeared on some Tonight shows and things like that, but besides that, no one knows this is out, for one. For two, Netflix, I feel like everyone has Netflix. Everyone comes home after a long day at work, puts it on. What's on? Oh, I've heard about The Last Dance. I've heard about, this and that. And that's just how a lot of people live their lives, and they're not getting exposed to some of this great content. So, I don't consider it my job, but I try to hit some of that audience on, my Instagram and in this podcast. And we try to hit some of these general moviegoers that are listening and say, please take a look at Bad Education. It's a great film. I'd say it's a great film, a great watch. Yeah, it's slow at times. It's not your traditional film. It's taking a different angle. It's not without its flaws, but I'd prefer you to watch this over something like The Wrong Missy on Netflix, which is currently the #1 film on Netflix, which is a terrible film.
What is going on there?
Terrible film.
Who in 2020 is watching David Spade and Rob Schneider? Look, I love some of Rob Schneider's work.
I love Rob Schneider. Don't get me wrong, but he's in it for 2 minutes.
Male Gigolo is poof, but come on.
He's in it for 2 minutes. I wanted to see more of him, and I didn't hear you
He's
can
in it
do
for
it.
2 reasons. The money.
Yeah, exactly. David Spade, he doesn't have any flair for me at the moment. But you haven't watched The Wrong Missy, have you? It's a stinker. But
no, I can't say it's on the watch list of 2,348 films.
If it is, it's at the bottom. So it is a shame. And look, there's probably, if you looked at the numbers on who watched Bad Education against who watched The Wrong Missy, you'd probably be shocked at how lopsided it is towards The Wrong Missy, which is sad in a way. But, that's just the game we're in at the moment. This is an indie film. As you said, it's a low-budget film. It doesn't have it's not really a comedy, so
it does have the potential to have a massive marketing push behind it from HBO, one of the premier cable services over in the US, and many moviegoers, whether or not you're exposed to much of the American media, are familiar with what those letters mean, HBO, home box office.
Mm-hmm.
With that, Dan, I want to comment on something you said there about we want to open up some of our movie listeners' ears and certainly their eyes to other projects that are out there and things they might normally consider. This is why sometimes we might look at films and be a little bit hesitant to not give them a recommendation or to give them a really weak review. We want to be more positive about them, particularly with Capone. You were very happy to slam that a 2 out of 10. I gave it a 3, but I still said that if this premise interests you, I want you to go out and see it because it's a different kind of movie. It's an audacious kind of movie. And here with Bad Education, certainly with its absurd humor and interesting tone, it's a different kind of film. You really should be seeking these out. Without further ado, do you want to get stuck into it?
Let's get stuck into spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Okay, so Hugh Jackman in this movie. Whoa, he is firing on all cylinders. What did you think of this man's take at... this was like Patrick Bateman meets the school principal. I had here so this is adapted from an article that was written, The Bad Superintendent. And after you've seen Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, did you feel
Look, not that bad. I didn't think he was. You know what? I actually found Hugh Jackman likable in this, in a strange way.
You
and I
have to
think
love the guy.
You can't not love the guy, whatever he's
so
in.
charismatic.
Come on, he is.
You look at him and you're like, oh, I just want to marry him.
Okay, now you're really talking like me. No, he really is charismatic, and even though the onion peels here, and we see more and more about this guy Frank.
Onions have layers,
and onions have layers, and Frank is sort of exposed for all the lies and deceit going on there. But you can't help but like him, and like I said, the character of Rachel didn't hit for me because I found Allison as well, Allison and Hugh's characters, Frank and Pam, to be so likable that I didn't even want her to succeed. But I don't know if that's how they were trying to do the story, because these two people weren't...
The two actors were having so much fun together on screen, even as both their characters are totally unraveling. They're having their whole lives torn apart, which was what they're doing, of course. They're just devilish and just delighting in it so much. And then by the end, we get both of them kind of in passive jabs at one another. We have Hugh's character Frank fires Pam, and then Pam gets back at him by the end with I guess it's the DA, played by, shout out to Pat Healy. It's just so much fun. We can't help but like them in this, and it's great that they have so many wicked lines to work with.
Yeah, and even Frank, he is always wearing nice suits. He's always
dressed to the nines.
Dressed to the nines. He's putting on makeup, and it's sort of a masquerade, a mask on what this guy really is. This is a character study, I would say, where we're seeing this guy, all the lies he's told unfold and play out, and see what, he doesn't even realize how many lies he's saying.
Absolutely not. And it doesn't appear to be coming from a malevolent place either. He doesn't.
No.
Did you feel that too? That everything he was doing was kind of innocently, and because he believes it was for the greater good, that it was from the right place. It clearly wasn't, especially considering the amount of money that they ran off with here. I think the real reports from the real Frank to somewhere about 12 million. And I don't know if we ever get a confident number in the movie, but it's, they want to be doing things for for what they see as the good as the people, right?
I think they were pretty accurate. Looking at some behind the scenes with the director, Corey Finley, he said he wanted to stick true to the film's sort of to the story. So as much as they can anyway within a film. But one thing that was interesting to see was Hugh Jackman playing a gay character here. It's the first time I think we've ever seen it, and he pulled it off. But it was shocking to see. I didn't expect that turn. I didn't expect.
Well, you could argue Hugh playing Peter Allen for however many stage shows it was as the boy from Oz was probably another gay character, but
okay. Well, on screen, I mean, not in the theater. I didn't expect it at the start. Maybe the first half an hour, it wasn't something I expected. He talks about having a wife that died, and he was a widowed man. But then we see the real layers unfold, and he's actually got two main squeezes going on. But I didn't expect that romantic scene with that young boy. That was very confronting. Did not expect that at all from you.
Left field was it? Did you have the same feeling I did, Dan, where you could sense that something was off about the chemistry between the two of them?
Wasn't it?
It was like I was made uncomfortable. It was almost kind of disgusting because we were waiting for something to happen, and we just didn't know where it was going to lead. I'm so glad that he didn't murder this poor boy. I kind of feel like he was just going to tear shreds off him.
Yeah, there was some sort of domination sort of tactics going on. It did feel very, very confronting, very a bit off. Maybe it was the age difference. I guess it was, but there's something a bit off-putting about a teacher going with a younger student. That's never going to sit right with me. But yeah, I did not expect him to play that role, and it's funny because in this film he's a widowed man. They talk about that.
Oh, the old dead wife.
But they imply in this film that he didn't even have a wife, I thought. But in reality, he did have a real wife, the real Frank. Apparently 6 months after she died of cancer, he then went to a gay bar And so, look, it is very
Alright.
similar to what happened in the show, but I was very taken back by that scene. Ultimately, yeah, Frank's hiding from himself here, and the deceit, the lies are just building and building, and that's sort of the tension building throughout this film. So if that sounds appealing, then I guess, then you'll really like this film, won't you?
Yeah, Hugh's take was certainly intriguing and very deep. Lots of range shown here on the screen as he played this closet homosexual who never quite felt at peace with himself. I loved how in many of his scenes, whether it being sitting in his office or sometimes in his New York apartment, that we find out about the turning point of the film there, where he has that orchestral score playing. And at first we feel it might be a non-diegetic score, that it's happening outside of the movie. It's for us listening at home, but it's actually Frank Toussaint playing that orchestral music. And it's meant to be very peaceful. And like, this man has everything, that he really can do no wrong, that he has everything figured out, but he never really does. He's not at peace with himself. He's clearly always conflicted. He's always pulling back at something. He's always putting out fires. And I think where we see him have the plastic surgery and have his face pulled and peeled back and it's just barely covering over the skin, that's Frank throughout the whole picture.
Correct,
He's always just hanging in there, and he needs another vice. He needs something else to keep his grip. And I guess that's when he starts this affair, and what, he takes his young lover with him to London and back on first class flights that they come to light there. It's it's ironic, and it makes for an absurdist take. I really enjoyed it.
That whole plastic surgery and the makeup and the suits, it's all a facade. It's all as I said, it's all the fakeness of what he really is, and that's the visual representation of it, I guess. And look, I thought that was a nice touch. Even the opening scene, when we first see Frank, the first opening scene of the shot, it's a slow, steady shot from the back. You don't see this guy all the way up. You're following him. You're getting a sense of who this guy is. And then we eventually get a slow turn to his face. I thought that was a very interesting shot, very thought out. And a lot of shots throughout this film are very well thought out. I thought Corey Finley did a great job. He's not a director I'd heard of, I have to be honest. And after this, I definitely will be keeping an eye on him, because I thought the whole picture came together really nicely. It was really thought out, I thought, even though, writing a bit spotty, I guess we could say. But, everything else came together. I'm glad you found, you noticed that orchestral music. You stole my point, but I'm glad you did, because I'm usually
I'm so glad I did. I think you
about
stole
music
3 points for me before we even started talking about bad education. I'm glad. Corey Finley's first feature, Thoroughbreds, was critically lauded when that dropped in 2017, and having watched this, I'm excited to check it out. That was one of Anton Yelchin's last performance before he tragically died at the cursed age of 27 as well. Dan, on that opening sequence, which, look, this is probably going to show up a lot in this podcast. Everyone rips off the guy, but it ripped off Scorsese's Copacabana scene when we have that great tracking shot following our character as he greets everyone, and he's clearly the coolest man in the room. It was just a great way to kick off the film, and excellently mirrored and paralleled and even parodied in the closing sequence.
in the closing scene.
Dan, let's think back to our last episode, Capone, okay? Capone, how many hallucinations, how many dream sequences did we have that just left a bad taste in your mouth? And here, the film's denouement finishes off on an amazing high note with Frank in prison, notices the doors open. We think, hang on, where's this going? He's transported to the school. We realize he's hallucinating it. And it's the same shot in this ironic, satirical take as the beginning of the film. He walks out on stage, but rather than having joy and elation, even though he's being clapped, he's crying. Frank's realized that he's lost everything, and it was only his actions. He was the true catalyst. If he hadn't have been sending out that great positive messaging and inspiring Rachel to go out and really get to the nitty gritty of this piece, what he has that great monologue where he says to her, this can be a great opportunity for you. I'm totally butchering the great dialogue here from Mike McCaskey. And it was Frank. Frank did it to himself. It was an awesome take, right?
That was a great ending. I thought it really came together. And
it felt earned. It was a dream sequence and a hallucination that was earned. And we felt rewarded having sat through the movie, where Capone, none of it meant squat.
Exactly. And I think it's hard to end a film like this on a note like that, because it is a somber ending. and it is a real life story. So they needed something like that with a bit of flair to end it on. So I'm really, really glad they put that together. And that just shows, as I said, Corey Finley, he's got some directing chops here. I think he's, not everything was perfect, don't get me wrong, but I think he's definitely one to watch. So look, I will say though, would this film have worked so well if it wasn't for these two main leads in Alison and Hugh? I don't want to bang on about them, but this is an actor's man movie, isn't it? This is where it's really going to come down to the acting on how good this film is, I think.
Certainly, and we're so glad that we had them both cast in this. Alison Janney, it kind of feels like that the movie was written around her. Like, she just steals it for that first half. That great sequence when she shares the sandwich with Frank in the bleachers at the baseball game, I should say.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That was the first thing they filmed. And you can see
really?
from then that the chemistry and the relationship between the two of them, it's like we've been waiting for these two actors to come in as a couple for a movie for the last 20 years. And thank God it happened, because it was such a delight.
And I think they're actually close friends in real life, so that probably would have helped as well. And it probably would have been a fun, nice set to be around. It's not a big blockbuster film, so, and Hugh does a lot of research. If you didn't know, he is known for doing...
So he should. He's earning a bit of money here.
A lot of research in his films. Like, he even went into he even started contacting superintendents, for goodness sake, and learning about what are their stresses, what are they, what do they usually do.
Dan, would you take 5 minutes if you had the call from Hugh Jackman, if he wanted to hear about what you do in your day-to-day life?
Look, I'd have to check my schedule.
Oh, never has a bigger lie been spoken.
Would you, if Lynch wanted to know a little bit about what you're doing, would you be able to fit him in your schedule? David
No
Lynch?
answer I can possibly give could tell you how much I'd love that.
So yeah, look, this film is a film we definitely.
It's a film.
It's definitely a film. So that's our review. It is slow at times. I wouldn't say it's a drag. To me, I didn't feel it at all. I didn't
feel a minute of its length.
It really didn't. But I can see how general moviegoers would find this a little bit slower. So the attention spans in 2020.
This isn't a mind-bending movie like we've covered in some recent episodes here with Capone and The Prestige and Mulholland Drive. You do want to be paying attention to it. And are there going to be Michael Bay action sequences with Dutch angles and explosions every 5 minutes? No, there's not. And I think part of the true charm here in the script is a lot of what happens is left unsaid. A lot of the intentions and motivations behind the characters, they don't explicitly say, but it's very smart and it rewards you as the viewer. You feel intelligent for following along. Did you have the same feeling as me?
I have to disagree with you there, Jackson. One thing I would say about this film is I wanted them to dive into some of the other characters a little bit more, and some of the things that happened with Hugh and Alison maybe could have been left unsaid. We knew they had a great relationship, maybe a few less scenes, but then again, I did enjoy that a lot. So it's a win-win, I guess. It's a stalemate. But characters like Rachel and her dad, I thought that was an interesting storyline with the dad and what happened with him. That wasn't explored. Ray Romano, I thought it was great to see him.
Ray Romano as well.
Maybe that's just because I love the guy. Who knows? And then again, the Rachel character.
Dan, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are in the Ray Naissance at the moment.
He's coming back. Come on, he needs to get into a Nolan film now. He's ready.
I was waiting for the MCU, but
the MCU. He's the new Captain America.
Oh,
he's
the new Captain
Iron
America,
Man.
Ray Romano.
He's the new Iron Man.
Everybody.
Oh man, we're falling off the rails here.
Everybody loves Bucky Barnes.
Oh shit. Anyway, what was I saying? The Rachel character. I thought, as I said, she just wasn't that likable, and that was probably the main gripe I had with the film, where I needed her to be very likable. So we're on the journey and we want her to succeed. That's the biggest gripe I have with the film. That detracts a few points from me in this overall score, because if we had that build up with her, if we were on the ride with her, that payoff might have been a lot better when they finally get caught at the
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Dan. There could have been more there to explore our characters, but in what was a pretty tight, pretty taut to have something parallel, Hugh Jackman's character Frank, I don't really know where else we could have gone. They obviously wanted to stick pretty close to the source material, the real life story, you should say.
Yeah, so look, why don't we, do you have any of the behind the scenes for this one, Jackson?
Well, behind the scenes, there's a whole real life story to explore. As we said, Frank Tasson is a very interesting character. So if this film did intrigue you and you want to find out more, quick Google search and you will find plenty of interviews with him. By the way, he makes it very clear that at no point in his 32-year career did he happen to date or have a sexual relationship of any kind with one of his students. So let's just put that one out there.
Really?
But I
didn't know that.
I love this take of a high school superintendent who is living, if not a double, but a triple life, where everyone believes that he's a widowed man of a woman who's died years and years and years and years and years ago. It turns out he's got not only a domestic partner, but a man he's having an affair with in Las Vegas. I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree. So,
what did you think of hearing Dido's White Flag in the credits as well?
Oh, man, that's a throwback. I thought I was back in 2003.
It kind of fit that it kind of fit that bittersweet ending though.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think there was other song choices I would have chosen, but definitely a throwback. Where is she now? Jeez, is she even alive?
I don't know where she is.
Man. Anyway, Jackson, why don't we head to final ratings? I think we've said enough about this film. We both enjoyed it. We both recommend it, I guess. So. Final ratings, you kick us off, Jacko.
Oh, I'm so glad you've asked me to kick us off, Dan, because I'm just about to throw you under the bus here too for once. So I'm going to start with 7 out of 10 sandwiches in the bleachers. I really enjoyed this film. I want to implore you to go out and see it. And I want to make some recommendations here for other films you should be watching if you enjoyed this. And Dan's going to make some as well. If you enjoyed Bad Education, go seek out Spotlight. Go seek out Election. And go seek out I, Tonya, Alison Janney's Oscar-winning performance, and what a role that was. Dan, what was your final rating?
My final rating for Bad Education is an 8 out of 10. It is the highest rating I've given this year, I believe. I think I gave Invisible Man an 8 as well.
But, with the exception of a certain Nolan movie, and there's that N-word again.
Look, for 2020 movies, this is the top of the list so far. We've both got our list going at the moment on Letterboxd, if you want to check those out, guys. This is at the top of mine. I don't know where it ranks on yours, Jackson, somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I really enjoyed the film. It's not a film that has got a lot of press, so please go out and see it and watch it. If you're here in Australia, VPN Express, like we said, there's plenty of ways you can work around it and get this on your TV screen. We need more eyeballs on films like this. So 8 out of 10 and 7 from Jackson.
That puts us at a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5. If I had to recommend another film like this, I'd probably go the same with Jackson and say Spotlight. Phenomenal film. Really, really enjoyed Spotlight. And probably another one, I would say, Dark Waters. Came out in 2019 with Mark Ruffalo. It's similar themes. Real life story, and really enjoyed that, so check out Dark Waters as well. So it's a 7 out of 10 collectively for Bad Education. Jackson, before we head off today, why don't we give our listeners one more recommendation movie that they should go see, any genre, any taste. Give our listeners a movie they should check out this week.
Listeners, what we want you to check out this week is Escape from New York. 1981. John Carpenter at the top of his game. Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. It's 1997. Manhattan Island has turned into a living, breathing prison. The president in Air Force One has crashed his plane. Only one man can get him out, and that one man is wearing an eye patch. Seriously, though, John Carpenter's Escape from New York is a rockin' movie. For me, it came in at 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10 arrows to the knee, and I can't recommend it enough. If you like action, if you like dark sci-fi films, you will love this.
And Jackson, you appeared on a podcast reviewing this. Do you want to quickly touch on that?
Absolutely, yes. You'll hear my in-depth review along with Bruce and Angus from the Chatflix podcast, some fellow Melburnians, in several weeks. So I look forward to our listeners checking that one out, and hopefully we get some new earballs on ours.
Beautiful. Well, I recommend this week, guys, Grimsby, 2016 comedy film
Whoa.
from Sacha Baron Cohen. And I recommend this with caution. It's not for everyone. The reviews are shocking. But I found it bloody hilarious, to be frank. It's so dumb and it's so ridiculous. It's just so funny. I was on the floor laughing. I got to say, it's just, I don't know how Sacha Baron Cohen does it. He's a comedy genius. Every film I've seen, look, not all of his films have hit, but a lot that I've seen, I'm just on the floor laughing half the time. I don't know how he does it. He gets away with the most ridiculous jokes, and he's a talent. Definitely. He's not for everyone. I understand. It's very crude humor in this, but him and Mark Strong together, oh man, they're such a great duo.
Are they twins?
It's night and day. So it's they're twins in the film. Yeah, they're
Night and
brothers.
Day. Is that the Cameron Diaz Tom Cruise film?
That is the Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise film. But yeah, comedy film. It's ridiculous, and there's a scene that I cannot even describe to you. It's so ludicrous that you need to see it to believe it. It's so crazy. You've never seen anything like it. But if that isn't enough, if isn't enough to get you in, I don't know what is. So Grimsby and Escape
from New York.
Beautiful. All right, Jackson, why don't we take this moment to thank our sponsors for today, ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN, a VPN service where you can keep your online activity from being traced. Choose from over 160 locations across 94 countries and keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. Access any content from any location you want. expressvpn.com/wewatchthis for 3 months free on your 12-month plan. Great deal that they've offered us, so please, if you're looking for a VPN service, please use this and use our link, expressvpn.com/wewatchthis. And also, thanks to our other sponsor for today, Display. Display, you all well know. Brilliant, thick metal plates with gallery quality prints on them. They easily stick to your wall and look great in any room or office environment. They're an easy magnet mounting system. Doesn't require any nails, tapes or power tools. Jackson has a few displays coming. Tell us which ones you've got coming this week.
I sure do, Dan. I wanted to be careful about which display posters I'm going to mention because these might be part of my own money embezzling scheme, which, by the way, I am also hiding from you thanks to our great friends at ExpressVPN. Now that I've said that, I'm probably not going to be back on the podcast. So, guys, it's been a ride. I've currently got some Allison Janney film display posters on the way. So, mentioned at the top of the pod, I, Tonya is coming, and what a movie featuring Margot Robbie and Sebastian Stan that was. We've also got one coming. You might have heard of this one, The Duff. Do you remember The Duff?
The Hillary Duff?
Well, you're not the only one that doesn't remember the film. In fact, I don't really either, and I'm definitely not reading this off an IMDb filmography. And of course, finally, I've got one coming for, you wouldn't believe she was in this film, but American Beauty, featuring one actor whose name shall not be said.
We could not name him. He used to be a great actor, but not anymore. Anyway,
and that's enough of the pedophilia references for one episode.
Oh yeah, jeez. Anyway, guys, look, we're going to be doing a Q&A for episode 15 next week.
Q&A!
So please send in your questions. I'll be putting up a little thing on Instagram. Jackson will as well. So
we
reply
had
to that.
such awesome questions and suggestions when we did this at episode 10, and for episode 15, fantastic.
Fantastic. We can't wait to get into them. So send us as many as you want. We'll try to cover absolutely every single one if we can. If we don't, we'll cover it in episode 20 and 25 and so on. So guys, please send your questions in for next week's review. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today. You can find us on all social media platforms. Jackson's going to read them out to you right now.
You can find us on Instagram at We Watch This Podcast, on Twitter at We_watched_this, on Facebook at We Watch This Podcast, and of course, you'll find the We Watch This Movie Podcast on Letterboxd at we watch this podcast. We'd love for you to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening. Be sure to hit follow. And Dan, speaking of next week's Q&A, what are we going to be reviewing next week?
Next week, we're going to be reviewing our first DC film in the history of this
That's
podcast.
a hot topic this week, isn't it?
Hot topic this week with the Snyder Cut being released. We thought we'd go back to the 2020 film Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn.
Or the fabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
That's it, and we're going to
And
be
what a
taking look
fabulous
at
film
that.
it's going to be.
It's going to be fabulous. I've seen it already, and I'm not going to give anything away. We'll find out next week what we thought. But guys, tune in for that and the Q&A next week. It's going to be a blast. And then after that, we've got Prisoners. So that's going to be a phenomenal review, and we can't wait to share that with you. We have Nick joining us for that one. Nick Fix. So that'll be a great episode as well, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. On behalf of me and Jackson, thanks for listening. Subscribe on all podcast platforms. Share the podcast with a friend. And guys, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening.